panel. So if I can get everyone to quiet down a little bit. Thank you all for coming. Hopefully our objective out of this session is to familiarize you with what brand management and a career in marketing can look like. We have representatives from several different companies, a couple different industries that can hopefully answer some questions about what they do, because we all know that we are trained in marketing in the service. So that was our biggest training. Exactly, thanks. Okay, great crowd. So, as you may have heard this morning, I'm Matt Kenaway. I'm an Associate Marketing Director at Procter & Gamble. My role here is to help direct and answer questions, prime the pump, unless I can get some hoo-ahs out of here. I haven't heard one yet today, so I'm waiting for one, please. I know, right? Marines, okay, you can do the Marine version. So on our esteemed panel, we have here Josh Levine from Procter & Gamble, Esther Faust from Hershey's. We are really lucky to have the Chief Marketing Officer of the Clorox Company, Tom Britannic here from Clorox, and then joining us from Google, Lyle Einstein. So maybe if we could, each of the panelists, if you could tell us about your pathway to your company, how long you've been there, and what's kept you there.
Sure. Again, Josh Levine from Procter & Gamble. I was year group 2000, was in the Army for about 5 years, transitioned through an MBA program at Harvard, and was on my way to a career in civilian business and marketing. Took a quick detour through the involuntary ready reserve and a recall to the Army for another year, and then found myself at Procter & Gamble following that. I've been at P&G for almost 5 years, a couple of different roles. I'm on my third assignment with P&G, a couple with the Gillette business, and now I have more of what we call a scale role. I work across our full portfolio of brands.
Great.
Hi, my name is Esther Faust. I am from Israel. I served in the Israel Defense Forces, started out as an infantry instructor, moved on as an officer, and then I had my last gig in the artillery, which is lots of fun. After the military, I went and got a degree in industrial engineering, spent a few years doing that in the tech sector, and then decided that my passion was consumer packaged goods and marketing. So I got my MBA right down the river at MIT Sloan, and I've been working at the Hershey Company for a little bit over a year. My first assignment was on the Hershey franchise, the flagship brand, and I just recently transitioned into a global innovation role, supporting our refreshments, our gum and mint business.
Hi folks, I'm Tom Britannic, currently the Chief Marketing Officer for the Clorox Company. And let me see, I started off at the University of Pittsburgh in ROTC Air Force. Upon graduation, went into Systems Command, which is kind of, I'll call it the business side of the Air Force. In Dayton, Ohio, started out as a cost analyst, working on costing out the cruise missile integration into the B-52 way back when. And then moved into project management, worked on B-1 when it was started up by Ronald Reagan, and then met my wife in the Air Force. We moved to Electronic Systems Division in Hanscom Air Force Base, worked on the AWACS upgrades and so on and so forth, and got my MBA through the Air Force at night from Western New England College when we were up in Boston. And I had orders to the Pentagon to be a general's aide, and you know, when you go from managing multi-billion-dollar programs, starting up new weapon systems and so on and so forth, going to be a general's aide just wasn't my cup of tea. So I had a buddy that went through the MBA program who had left the Air Force prior to me a couple years, and said, "Hey, dude, send me your resume. You're gonna love it here." And I'm like, "Okay." And so one thing led to another, and I got a job at Procter & Gamble. Started out in brand management. Did a variety of different things at Procter, spent 13 years there. About half my career was in food and beverage, half my career was in healthcare. Worked in a variety of different roles, including a rotation into the sales organization, which was awesome. And about 14 years ago, Clorox gave me a call and said, "Hey, how would you like to be a general manager?" So packed up my family, moved from Cincinnati, came to the Bay Area, became a general manager on our pet products business. Moved through a variety of different roles, including another rotation into the sales organization, back into marketing, another general management assignment, and then about 5.5 years ago became chief marketing officer. So that's kind of my gig, and it's great being here. So look forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lyle Einstein, which you can imagine was probably a tough handle in the military. I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps way back in the 90s. Desert Stay, not Desert Storm. And then I guess a little bit about what I'm doing now. I'm an emerging platform manager at Google. Have been with Google for a little over 2 years, so not a terribly long time. Took quite a twisting, long and interesting road to get there. We can talk maybe a little bit more about that later. But as an emerging platform manager, I'm kind of straddling roles of sales and marketing, and we're incubating some of our newer products before they are scaled and brought to market.
Great. So, I think a lot of people might have the question really, what is brand management and what role it might play at your company? So Tom, obviously you've been around brand management for longer than anyone here, so maybe you could help kind of answer that in your mind. What is brand management and what type of role does it play at your company?
Great, thanks, Matt. To be clear, I've been around brand management a long time, but I started in this career when I was 5, just so you guys know. But in all seriousness, before I get into what's brand management, I think it's important just to kind of level set us as to what is a brand, and you think of a brand as, I go to the store and I pick up a product, and it's kind of what I'm used to buying, right? But actually, when you get into it, and you look at the deeper psychology, so to speak, a brand is much more than a product or a service for that matter. And when you think about it, it is truly, when you look through the consumer eyes, it is an aspiration that they're buying, okay? When you look at the value of any consumer packaged goods company, it is significantly more than the assets that get rolled up, right? It is the true value of what that brand is and what the future potential of that brand can be, right? So when you look at it through the consumer lens, I'll take one of our products, Brita, as an example. Sure, Brita has functional benefits, and it filters water and makes water taste good, right? But when you talk to our consumers, Brita means much more to them than just the functional benefits of filtering water and making it taste great. We are a knight in shining armor, so to speak, that helps them fulfill their aspirations that they can't do for themselves, like fight childhood obesity through getting kids to drink more water instead of sugary drinks, like saving the planet in terms of reducing bottled water waste. And the comments that we get from consumers and why they bond with the brand and ultimately drive loyalty beyond reason of just providing the functional benefits, that is what a brand is. And so parlay that into what is brand management and what your role would be being a brand manager. It is truly being the steward of that equity. A brand is something that is living, breathing, and needs nurturing through its lifetime. And you, as stewards of the brand, need to make sure that during your short time on that brand, whether it be 2, 3, 4 years, that you are making it better than when you received it. And so you got to think of it almost like a child. You got to take personal ownership of that brand and bring it along, because the consumer environment changes, the competitive environment changes. You got to be on it, and you got to be really understanding through the consumer lens what are their wants, needs, desires, aspirations, and how you not only fulfill that functionally, but emotionally as well, so that you ultimately drive loyalty beyond reason. Now, what do? Basically, you lead a multifunctional team. Includes R&D people, sales people, finance people, insights people, on and on and on. And you are basically the quarterback of that multifunctional team that looks through that consumer lens and looks at the equity of that brand and what the value proposition for that brand is. Not only what functional features and benefits does that brand provide, but how do you drive emotional attachment for a lifetime of loyalty with the consumer? And that evolves, that changes, and you got to stay on it. And so you're constantly being the watchman, if you will, looking out for the long-term equity. Now you're going to have to balance that with the fiscal realities that happen. So you also have to have a business mindset, not just a marketing mindset or a consumer mindset, because there are resource constraints you're going to have to deal with. You also have to understand how you motivate a multifunctional team that may or may not be totally aligned with the vision that you have going forward. And so you got to understand how to adapt and how to motivate that team, how to stay on top of what the consumer trends are, as well as the fiscal realities, and continue to progress and move your brand forward.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Tom, so thank you. I think Tom brought up some great points in terms of about leadership. So maybe for all the panelists, how did your military experience adequately prepare you for your jobs today and what you're doing?
I guess I'll take that. In a lot of ways, I think some of the things that Tom touched on in terms of particularly